Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. Today's topic, Battle of the Letters to the NTIA. A few weeks ago, WISPA, Association for Wireless Internet Service Providers, sent a letter to the NTIA, and there was a response letter not long after from 3 other associations, and this is all regarding how much fiber we should have and whether it's too much fiber or not enough. Be right back. Thanks for joining. Rick Ruzzi here with Broadband Deployment News. So I reported on this a couple of weeks ago, I think maybe a week or 2 ago, that WISPA had sent in a letter to the NTIA, and their concern was that what they were seeing from the states as far as their initial proposals was that they were possibly going to be focusing too much on fiber and not have enough money left over to reach all of their citizens with broadband. And the goal of BEAD is to get everybody reliable broadband, and that would be fiber broadband or broadband via, believe it or not, DSL, but nobody's doing that. Obviously, cable broadband service, and that would have to be over speeds that would be relevant for the notice of funding opportunity. So you can't do 10 megabits per second down for DSL and get that. You'd have to have a cable plan that would be available. That would be better than, I'm trying to remember if it was 100 symmetrical or 100 by 20. To get over underserved, 100 by 20. So that also includes fixed wireless if it is licensed spectrum, or if it is a mixture of licensed and unlicensed, or if it's considered licensed by rule, which would be CBRS spectrum. That qualifies as reliable broadband as well. But also, the Notice of Funding Opportunity talks about priority broadband projects, and it says those should be, the things that are prioritized should be fiber. So you're supposed to do those up to the point where you get to an extremely high cost threshold, and then you can look at other technologies, or you can also get approval from the Assistant Secretary to do something different, maybe if you were under that threshold for particular reasons, but you'd have to request that. So that is really the crux of the problem is, where is that number, and how do states ensure that they have enough money to get fiber to as many people as possible and still have money left over to be able to get some other technology out there to be able to reach everyone. So that's what we're looking at here. So again, WISPA sent this letter a couple weeks ago, and then I saw this just shortly after. So this was January 25th. I think the WISPA letter was a few days, a week or so before that. So this one, am I looking at the right one here? This is the WISPA letter. Oh, wait a minute. I'm looking at the wrong thing here, I think. Yeah, okay, hold on. Let me find the letter I was going to show today. There we are. There's the letter. So the WISPA letter, again, was sometime in January, and here you see February 2nd. So this one just came out, actually. And this, I think, was in a response to the WISPA letter. So this is from ACA Connects, Fiber Broadband, and NTCA. And you see this was also sent to the NTIA, to Alan Davidson, Assistant Secretary. So the point that they're making, let me make sure I can see the whole thing here. There we go. So the point that they want to make is that they want to make sure that the NTIA sticks to their guns, so to speak, on this idea of priority broadband and making sure that states focus on fiber. They're not saying don't use fixed wireless, but they're saying make sure that you maximize fiber. So you see here, we urge you to adhere to the vision of lasting success under this initiative, building sustainable fixed broadband networks that endure as directed by Congress and the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and is in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. We also call upon the NTIA to establish metrics going forward to track whether states and territories have fulfilled their responsibilities to connect all eligible locations to high-performance broadband service and maximize all fiber builds. So again, trying to maximize the fiber builds. Too often, as federal broadband funding programs have moved from concept to implementation, there's been a tendency to seek support broadband infrastructure that is just good enough for the moment. And a point needs to be made here is that quite often, one of the issues we've had as we've gone back in the past is that it was the best thing we had available that was reasonably priced at the time. So that's why so many programs not too long ago, including like Connect America Fund, were allowing DSL at lower speeds, because that was a technology that was reasonable at the time, whereas maybe fiber broadband was too costly, or maybe fiber should have been focused on. They should have looked at that. But that was one of the issues, is that the technology has improved. And now that fiber broadband is so much more prevalent and less costly, that's something that into the future should be fairly well future-proof, where some of these other technologies haven't been. So you have to look at that as well. Under these prior programs, initial lofty goals of giving every American robust and affordable connectivity that will last for generations have given way to delivering the bare minimum to satisfy user demands here and now, leaving consumers and communities vexed and resulting in the need to establish yet more programs to address the needs left unaddressed. And another thing to mention there is the fact that the definition of broadband has changed. So as we've gotten better technology, the definition of broadband has changed. So we were actually deploying broadband in those earlier years, and we're saying, okay, well, everybody has broadband. Well, as soon as you change the definition of broadband, suddenly you're leaving a lot of people out of that. So as the definition of broadband went from maybe 10 megabits down to 4, I think it was at one point, and then it jumped up to 25 by 3, which it still is theoretically. I can't remember if they raised it to yet, or they've just been talking about it. But every time you raise the definition of broadband, then suddenly a bunch of people don't have broadband that had it just the day before because you've changed the definition. So that's something also that needs to be mentioned there. In the IIJA, Congress sought to break from these past failings. And again, one reason we could do that is because fiber was now reachable, reasonably as far as costs go. NTIA fulfilled this vision by determining in its NOFO, Notice of Funding Opportunity, that a priority broadband project required the deployment of end-to-end fiber optic architecture. In particular, agency concluded end-to-end fiber networks can be updated by replacing equipment attached to the ends of the fiber optic facilities, allowing for quick and relatively inexpensive network scaling as compared to other technologies. So what they're saying there is, you've got the glass on the ground, you can just change the lasers or the equipment that you've got shooting the light down the fiber, and you can go from gig PON to XGS PON, that would be 10 gig PON, to 25 gig PON, to 50 to 100, and you don't need to change the underlying medium. So that's important, yes. Moreover, new fiber deployments will facilitate the deployment and growth of 5G and other advanced wireless services, which rely extensively on fiber for essential backhaul. So again, it's talking here from the NOFO, but also in the NOFO is the definition of a priority broadband project. And it says in there that means a project that will provision service via end-to-end fiber optic facilities to each end-user premises. An eligible entity may disqualify any project that might otherwise qualify as a priority broadband project from priority broadband project status with the approval of the Assistant Secretary on the basis that the location surpasses the eligible entity's extremely high cost per location threshold, as described in a section in the NOFO, or for other valid reasons subject to approval by the Assistant Secretary. So the eligible entity in the NOFO, that would mean the state, basically, state or territory, that would be doing the subgranting of the funds that come to the state. And what they're saying here is, again, the state will need to set an extremely high cost threshold, and anything over that, they can consider other technologies like fixed wireless, because it would just be too expensive to try to do fiber to those really extremely high cost locations. If you did to all of those locations, then you could run out of money and not be able to reach everybody in your state with at least 100, something over 100 by 20 with reliable broadband service. Again, meaning a licensed fixed wireless or one of those that I mentioned, as well as the other technologies that would meet that. So that's the challenge. And they mention in here the ACA Cartesian report, which I'll mention as well after they do. So you see here, some are now calling upon NTIA to back away from this conclusion by rejecting or weakening initial proposals submitted by some states and territories that are consistent with this vision. And when they say some are now, they're talking about the WISPA letter. And by the way, I looked for the WISPA letter. I had linked to the WISPA letter when I talked about this, and the WISPA letter is gone. I don't know if they changed their mind or if they realized they had made some misstatements in there. As I went through it, I thought they were not looking at everything. Maybe that's, that they had said some states could not reach maximum fiber, but maybe the states were just talking about unserved and not all unserved and underserved or whatever. So I thought they had some errors in there. I pointed those out. Maybe that's why it's gone, or I don't know, but the file is completely gone now. So it says, we urge NTIA to stand its ground. That does not mean requiring the use of BEAD funds exclusively for fiber. It means prioritizing fiber projects and maximizing the deployment of fiber networks. Abandoning these goals would not only flout the law, but would disserve the public interest, relegating generations to less capable broadband access. Recent assessments prepared for ACA Connects by Cartesian, a consulting firm that specializes in telecom industry analysis, indicated that the vision of Congress for priority broadband projects lasting fiber access can be realized for the vast majority of, if not nearly all, unserved and underserved Americans in many states and territories. And I've gone through that ACA Connects Cartesian report before. And by the way, I linked to that. I linked to this letter. I had linked to the WISPA letter, which is now gone. I linked to this ACA Connects stuff and a video that I did about the ACA Connects stuff, because in that analysis, ACA Connects, if you look at their analysis, I think it was 20 plus, maybe 21 or more states that with the money they're getting should be able to do, if they maximize fiber, they should be able to get fiber to every single subscriber or household in their state. So they can do fiber across the board. There's some states that if they maximize fiber, they can get fiber to a good percentage, 70% of their state, and they'll have to do maybe 30%. Some other technologies like fixed wireless, some states are not quite as good as that, might have to be 50 or 60%. It depends on the state, their geography, how difficult it is, but a lot of states, according to their analysis, can do that. So projects funded under the auspices of the U.S. Department of Treasury and Agriculture and the FCC, and the ongoing efforts of private broadband providers to expand access as well, will likely only improve preliminary estimates of what can be reached through fiber, as locations that previously showed as eligible are slated to become served via other means. Indeed, it's worth noting that the broadband funding map maintained by the FCC does not yet reflect many of the awards and states and territories have issued pursuant, or that states and territories have issued pursuant to earlier Treasury funding. And I've talked about that as well, that lots of the funds especially through ARPA, for example, the Capital Projects Fund, and the state and local fiscal recovery funds are not showing up on the FCC map. And there's hundreds of $1 million that have been awarded to just one state alone. I think Georgia has used $400 million here that they've gotten through the ARPA funding to be able to fund programs. So I've mentioned this as well. So all of these kinds of programs that are being funded, I mentioned USDA, Reconnect, whatever it might be, RDOF, all of these funding programs, if the funds have not been committed yet, they will be shown as committed at the point that we have BEAD funding going out. So that's reducing the number of locations, and in some cases, some really difficult locations that states are going to have to serve that will not be on the map when they get their BEAD money. So they'll already be served or committed at least. Using the best information and analysis at its disposal, NTIA should identify percentage ranges of eligible locations in each state and territory that would expect to receive fiber under a subgrantee selection process that is faithful to the NOFO's fiber preference. In sum, we urge NTIA to adhere to the vision articulated by Congress and the IIJA and the data-driven approach to priority broadband projects adopted in the NOFO. The BEAD program promises to achieve the kind of lasting success that so many programs before it have failed to realize, and we hope that NTIA will hold fast to this vision and to ensure that the states and territories will do the same as it completes its review of its initial proposals for BEAD implementation. And again, you can see who this came from, ACA Connects, Grant Spellmeyer, the president and CEO, Gary Bolton, who many know well at Fiber Broadband Association, Shirley Bloomfield, CEO at NTCA and Rural Broadband Association. So again, this letter, in response to the letter from WISPA, which now seems to have disappeared. It's not either they moved it to a different location or they decided to take it down, but that's what that's in response to. And again, it highlights that problem that states are having to deal with. Some states, it's going to be easier for them to say, okay, we can get fiber everywhere and we'll have a little money left over for promoting broadband, those kinds of things, maybe affordability programs. Some states are going to say, they're going to know we can't get it everywhere. And they've got to set that extremely high cost threshold at a place where they can get fiber to the most people, but then still have enough money to get reliable broadband to the rest of the folks. And that's kind of what they're struggling with now. So they've got their initial proposals out. Every state has their initial proposal out. Several states now have got their challenge processes approved. I think a couple have gotten them approved, and more are expecting that soon. So we are certainly moving in the right direction here. So the question is, how many states will be able to do all fiber, and how many will be able to do maybe a good percentage of fiber? Those are the questions. And we've got these two competing goals. We've got the wireless folks that want to make sure they have some opportunity in this, and we've got the fiber folks that want to make sure that they get the maximum amount, because that really is the technology that we want to try to maximize, but can't do it everywhere. That's the whole problem, and that's the point. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. If this was helpful, if you give me a like on the video, and if you haven't subscribed yet, click the subscribe button, ring the bell, and you'll be notified when I'm live. Thanks a lot today for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.